Let's talk about 3 courageous questions you can ask to develop huge trust and engagement between the speaker and the audience. And whether you're standing on stage delivering to hundreds and hundreds of people in an amphitheatre, or you're sitting at a boardroom table in a staff meeting or a sales scenario, I reckon these 3 questions can dissolve the barriers that can tend to exist between you and your audience. And the first question to ask is, what's wrong with me? Now, a place that you can see this question tackled really effectively actually is comedy. So if you jump on YouTube and you search stand-up comedy and, I don't know, find someone that floats your boat, but look for a comedian that's a little bit different. Maybe there's something about them. They're really short, or they're really fat, or they're gay, or they've got a disability, or whatever it is, right? There's something about this comedian that kind of makes them different from the people that they're speaking to. And so often the source of the first few laughs in a comedy set is the comedian calling out that difference between them and the audience and dissolving the barriers that exist between those two groups of people as a result. And there's so many comedy sets you can find that start with a joke. There's that one, it's brilliant. I think it was on America's Got Talent or one of those kinds of shows. It was Britain's Got Talent, actually, I think. And the kid comes out in a wheelchair and he says, "You know what I can't stand?" Actually, sorry, I said that wrong. Do you know what? I can't stand. It's a really good joke. And what it does is it brings a level of comfort to the audience between them and the person who's presenting. And when we're using it in a professional environment, obviously we're not just doing it for laughs as they do in comedy. Okay, we're not looking to just poke fun at ourselves to get a quick laugh. Although sometimes, a good joke can be worthwhile. But what we're trying to do here is demonstrate that we have a sophisticated enough view of the world to understand that what we think about things is not necessarily what the audience thinks about things. And that by answering the question, "What's wrong with me?" out loud in front of the audience allows you to name the elephant in the room that they may otherwise be thinking about you. The thing that's wrong with you, the reason why I don't want to listen to this person is, if you're the one who's courageous enough to answer that question and talk about it on stage or from the front of the room, then it brings a level of trust and belief between you and your audience. So when we say, "What's wrong with me?" what do we actually mean? Look, I'm not saying there's actually something wrong with you, okay? It's just a way to ask the question that's quick and easy to remember. What we're saying is, what is it about you that makes you potentially not the right person to be delivering this message? Okay, so for example, let's say you're speaking at an industry conference to accountants and you've never been an accountant. Well, that's kind of, there's something wrong with you there. Do you really have the authority to be telling accountants about X, Y, or Z, whatever your expertise happens to be, though you've never been an accountant? Well, yeah, I think you do. And it's important to recognize that you aren't an accountant, you've never been an accountant, and that you are sharing something from your perspective and that you're asking them to take into account from theirs. Now, there are loads of ways that you can be the wrong person to be delivering a message to an audience, okay? So for one example that I sometimes have to wrestle with, if you're a man giving a whole bunch of advice to an audience that's primarily women, then that can come across as mansplaining in the current cultural context, right? And we need to be careful of that. Equally, you might be a really old presenter delivering a message to a group of high schoolers. Or it could even be that you are just obviously incredibly passionate about this particular message that you're delivering, and you're giving it to an audience who's never really considered it or been that into it before. And all of these things are just ways where the audience might be looking at you as the messenger. And remember, when you're sharing a message, they're buying you as much as they're buying the message. These are all ways the audience might be looking at you and thinking, do I really align with the way that this person thinks? And so by asking yourself the courageous question, "What's wrong with me?" you demonstrate that you have a sophisticated enough view of the world, you have a sophisticated enough understanding about who you are and what you're saying, that you've actually thought about the fact that there are reasons why you may not be the perfect person to deliver that message, and you're willing to name the elephant and describe, basically lay it all out, lay all your cards out on the table for the audience to see. And what that does is develops a huge amount of trust. If you're willing to recognize the ways that you're not the ideal person to be there at the front of the room delivering that message, then it shows you've got the emotional intelligence and the humility to consider all perspectives and all sides. And that creates an environment that allows your audience to truly engage. So the first courageous question is, what's wrong with me?